Hopefully you guys can hear me. Good morning. Amy, can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, can hear you very well.
Great. Okay. Well, being as it's 10 o'clock, shall we start, or should we hold on for a minute, Amy? I'll take your prompt on that one.
Maybe give another minute or so, just for a few more. I can see a few more attendees registering now, so.
Okay. Okay.
A couple of minutes. Ready when you are, Dan.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dan Barton from Bluestonex, and also on the line today, taking you through some of the features of Maestro is Feroz Khan, the other business partner with the company. So just quickly on the agenda, we'll just quickly tell you a little bit of background about the product. I'm very conscious of time. We want to leave some time at the end for Q&A, but what we're going to show you today is just a standard process for finished goods and how Maestro would handle the creation of a material master. I mean, you could put that for semi-finished or engineering or whatever. We're going to run through capabilities of the product, including some of the business rules. We'll talk about Office integrations such as Excel, email, and calendar. And then lastly, we'll talk on a couple of things, how users can access the tool, and also one of the new bits of functionality is around mass processing via Excel spreadsheets. Okay, just quickly about us, not really much to say there. We're quite a young company, 2012 we were formed. Our two main kind of focuses would be around user experience and innovation. And I guess what else is different about us? Well, we actually employ not only SAP certified consultants, but designers that help us with our user experience practice. 3 areas to our business. We're focusing on the digital aspect here, but as you can see, we do core ERP and user experience. I won't run through these. I'll just skip through them. So within the digital practice, this is where one of the solutions, Maestro, just to talk about Maestro, it was probably developed 2.5 years ago, working with a client. They were looking to remove email, Excel spreadsheets, and SharePoint from their environment to try and simplify data processing. And that's where kind of Maestro was born, really. Just a slide here, just to put things into context on where the kind of running a typical master data management program and what it can bring you. I mean, a lot of the numbers speak for itself there. We have our own stats, which I'm quite happy to share with people at the end, but you can see here it's about processing time, optimizing process, but also better quality of data and establishing governance within your enterprise. So Maestro then, just very quickly, so what is it? It's a product that covers any master data object within SAP. Its principles, not only managing the data, it's also managing processes and subsequent tasks, and we'll give you some examples of that. It sits within core SAP technology, so a couple of transports and it will live within your ECC6 or S/4HANA environment, and the whole purpose of it is really to remove these kind of manual ways of working and forms and spreadsheets and emails, and therefore improving data integrity and governance through business rules. In terms of UI, we give customers different options. So it comes in its native SAP GUI, but we also deliver SAP screen personas flavors, which we'll show you today, and also SAP Fiori as well. Importantly, just to note, when we deliver the product, it's delivered with best practice templates, and we work with the customers to configure the solution, but ultimately, our aim is to leave the client with the knowledge so that they can, amend, add new processes via the IMG, which is within Maestro. In terms of how most of the processes work, it will start off with a request, and that request is typically approved via workflow based on certain criteria. And that process may kick off a series of data gathering tasks. Now, if you can imagine a material master, for example, you've got finance views, purchasing views. So all that is managed within Maestro as well. And at the very end, once final approval has taken place, it will distribute that object to the various SAP systems in place. I won't go through these word for word. You'll get a feel of it throughout the demo. You'll see the workflow. You'll see that it's process driven, and we're going to show you some standard out-the-box templates. Hopefully, the one thing that will come through is the flexibility, but also accountability. So within Maestro, every transaction, every screen, every field, every approval, it's all logged, date and time stamped within Maestro. And the way we deploy Maestro is slightly differently. We don't do it at a user level, we do it at an object level because it lives within SAP. So you've already paid for user licenses once. Our kind of ethos really is you get the most out of your existing environment. We'll touch on this, Ferrells will share with you some of the data governance, but we've built a rule engine within the solution. So we'll talk about that in a little while, but it's there purely for you to configure, which we'll take you through. Yeah, you've got different options again down the bottom. You can see the kind of standard task list, but on the right-hand side as well, you've got Fiori views. They've all kind of got hyperlinks. So if people are receiving emails via Outlook, for example, they can click directly onto the request itself. We'll talk through the traffic lights that we have. It's all to do with, again, analytics, lead times, things like that. We'll talk through that. And from a technical architecture, I'm not technical by any means, but essentially it will sit on any database. It runs on ECC6 and S/4HANA. We deliver templates. Programming language predominantly is ABAP, but obviously with Fiori it's UI5 as well now. And you can configure and do pretty much everything that you need to do via an IMG. The whole point is that this tool is flexible enough where you don't need to rely on programmers or a consultancy, for example. We'll talk about templates and processes and rules in a second, but just so you understand, we have different UI options, and then within the core system, we deliver predefined templates which can be customized. It's got its own workflow in there, and we'll talk about data governance and give you some good examples of that. So this is quite an important one. So as I said, Maestro will manage any object and process within SAP. So let's take materials, for example. Within the configuration, there will be a definition of the object with views and fields. These are predominantly what the users and user groups will see. And then obviously we have business rules, which we'll talk through. And we have processes, and combined, they give you a template. Now, templates are very important within Maestro because you might have a template for finished goods material, a template for semi-finished, and so on, or for customer or for vendor or whatever that is. So that's pretty important, which we'll come back to. Right, okay, on that note, so we're going to show you finished goods, but you can apply the same principles to any kind of material master, okay? The scenario which we're going to run through today is we're going to have an account manager creating a request. In this case, it's going to be Ferrells. And that request is going to come through to be approved. Let's take the example where it's a data librarian doing that task. And then it's going to trigger a number of tasks, the main one being data gathering. So our example here is we're going to send off some requests for data to MRP people out in the plants, some sales information and some finance information. Now, obviously, depending on your process, that could be one person doing it, or that could be distributed across your enterprise. Now, the important thing with Maestro is if you set up business rules and you have business rules in place, a lot of the data gathering is already done for you, and it's purely a kind of approval step. But it all depends on how mature your business rules are. They're quite easy to set up in Maestro, but it's an important point. Once data gathering is done, typically there's an approval and release process, which in turn updates the views in the material master. Now, an important point with Maestro is at the end of that creation or amend or extension process, there may be follow-on functions, such as you might want to create pricing, you might want to do something within warehouse configuration, or you might want to set up contracts, and all that again can be managed in Maestro, and that's where, you know, the real kind of value is. So this is what we're going to run through. So we're going to create a request, we're going to approve it, we're going to populate some kind of basic data, maybe units of measure, for example, and then that's going to also trigger the data gathering, which is going to go across 3 plants in this scenario, where we've got finance data being captured, sales and MRP. Once all that is captured, we're then going to do a final approval where the object is going to be created. Okay. So on that note, I'm going to hand the presentation across to Feroz. Feroz, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. You can hear me, Dan and Amy, clearly?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen now, so hopefully you can see my screen, Dan. Can see it. Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So as Dan earlier introduced myself, Feroz Khan, I'm the business partner with Bluestonex. So I'm going to take you through the finished goods material process just for the demo purposes. Now, the screen you look in front of me is a launchpad which we created in SAP Personas. So this is an SAP Personas version of Maestro. Dan later on will show you the Fiori version as well, but I'm going to use Fiori version for the demo purposes. So this is based on the Fiori theme. Now you see the different tiles in there. So I've got, based on my access rights, I'm going to see the different tiles depending upon the function I'm going to be doing. So I've got create, my task list and request, and also some customization. So the process starts with someone requesting a new material. So I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to just fill in some basic information here. Now, some of the fields can be defaulted, but I've just left it blank so that I can demo you how the system's going to work. So I'm going to put in some description here. Okay, a new finished good cookie pack. Yeah. Org division is the division within your business organization. This could be your plant, or this could be a company. You define it. This is the configuration within Maestro, and you choose your org divisions. Nothing to do with backend org structure. Request type, I'm saying it's a new request. You can also do a change and extend, but for demo, we're saying a new request. Expected completion date, I'm saying I need my product to be ready next year. Not very realistic, but I'm just putting in the date there. Now, what this date's going to do is that date's going to tell me when the people need to complete the different tasks based on the lead time, which I'll explain you later on. Select the object type. I've got different options there, so I'm saying I'm doing a material master in this case, and then the reason code. The reason code is purely for the analytics and reporting purposes. Template, I'm saying I'm doing a demo template. So you can imagine here you could have more than one template for one object, which we'll explain it to you later on. Now you see that as soon as I did a new request and then the object, a pop-up has appeared for me and it's prompting me to search the material. Now, this is making sure that you're not creating the duplicate records. This is purely make sure people are checking in the database first before they request it. So I'm going to do a quick search based on the description. So I'm going to say, show me any choc chip cookies like that. Okay. Now a pop-up comes up. It goes in the SAP database, comes back with all these. But I know I need a pack of 20, so I think I'm fine with this. If I want to, I could actually go on these links and go and look at the material master. But in this case, I know I'm missing a pack here, so I'm fine with this. I'm just going to cancel it. And then it comes up with all the different tasks I need to do. So you can see there are total steps of 9 steps I need to do it. Now, these 9 steps are segregated by different areas. So as Dan was explaining you earlier, like I could be doing an MRP view, could be a sales view, could be a finance view, or it could be a follow-on functions to update certain Z tables, or it could be a subsequent function to transfer data to APO or to create a bill of material. Now, Maestro is not just about master data, it's also about managing the entire end-to-end process. So you can see here, I'm not just creating the material master, I'm also saying, could Maestro go and update certain Z tables in the back end? You might have certain things to do once the material has been created. Or you might want to do sales conditions, you might want to do purchase info records and so on. So you can nicely build up your process here, keep on adding different tasks to it. So for demo purposes, we have got these 8 steps in there. So I'm fine with those 8 steps, and then you can see those against each of those steps. I've got some dates in there. So these dates are calculated based on the expected completion date. So you see, I've put 1st of March 2018. So it puts the final date on last step and kind of work backwards based on the lead time against each of these. So again, these are purely for tracking purposes, so people can see where they are. It's an amber, green light, traffic light signal. So, you can pick up in your task list and say, oh, this is red, I need to action it quickly. So again, this is purely for analytics and tracking purposes. Now I'm going to go and put some comments in there and saying, please approve my request. Or you could put in anything you want, or you can even you can do an attachment here and say, you could, if you're creating a vendor, you might want to put his credit checks or something like that, or a customer, different details can be inputted in there. Now, the details tab, this is interesting. As part of the request creation, you could actually ask user to fill in certain bare minimum information, or as part of the template, you can predefine certain things. So you can see here, in this case, I've predefined saying, whenever I'm creating a new material for this template, I want it to be always created for 3 plants and 3 storage locations. Now, you could add 10 plants in there. It's entirely up to you, or the user can change it if he wants to. Again, same goes for the sales org. You can predefine those sales org. You can also define your classification. So system would pick up based on these org divisions. It's gonna pick up the number of views that needs to be created. Okay. Now this is all coming from templates, but can be predefined as well. So at this stage, I'm gonna just do a submit, and that creates a request. Now this then should trigger an email notification to my approver, and then the entire workflow process starts here. Now at this stage, I'm just going to hand over to Dan because he's the approver in this case. So he'll just approve it for you and then take you through the rest of the process. Let me just pause. So over to you, Dan.
Thanks, Faraz. So you can see my screen, right?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
Great, thanks. Okay, so just to explain and just to reiterate the point, so what we're actually looking at is a screen personas layer. This is just a nice little landing page for those of you that are familiar with screen personas. It's a bit like PowerPoint. Just show you, that's what basic SAP GUI looks like. This is what Maestro with screen personas looks like. Okay, right. Okay, so I can see that I've got 2 open tasks in here. And it looks like I have an approve request and also a final approval. Now, you can see from here that there's a dependency on this particular task, so I won't be able to do that, but I can have a look at the approve request. So in here, it tells me exactly, you know, where the request has come from. It's showing me the dates. I can see the comments in here. I can put stuff in here too. But importantly, what I can also do is check their search history. So this will actually tell me what the requester looked for when he requested a new material. So I can see that he actually searched for choc chip, for example, and he got these results. Now, that's quite a nice little feature because at that point, I can reject that request with some notes back to the user to say, you know, you haven't searched, there is a material here for that, please use it. But in this case, I'm happy, and I'm going to approve the request. Okay. If I come back, you can see that task has disappeared. I've just got the final approval step left. So I'm going to hand back to Farrell's now, who's going to take you through data gathering. Just to show you where we are in the process. We've had a create request. We've done an approval, and now we're starting this area now of data gathering. So I'm going to hand back to Farrell's. Should be back with you, Farrell's.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So I'm back onto my process steps now. So I'm going to log on in here and see what are the open tasks against my name. Now, because I'm kind of an administrator, I've got all the tasks up here on my list. But if I'm only a finance guy, I would only see a finance view. If I'm a sales guy, I can only see a sales view, like so on. Okay. Now, obviously, step 20 is ready for me now to process. You can see there's no dependencies on this, but I can't do the rest of it because there is dependencies. So I'm going to just go ahead and do the basic data one. Now, these views can be SAP views or they can be non-SAP views. What I mean by this is, as part of the data gathering, you might have certain data that doesn't belong to core SAP. That could just be in Z tables or something like that. So you can bring in all those views in here. Now, we have kind of related these views in this panel where you see to SAP views, but you could very well have different names and different views in that. So on here on the left-hand side, you can see there are different views I need to create as part of this process step 20. So I've got basic data 1 to do, I've got units of measure to do, and I've got classification view and classification view for production technical. Now you can see this has come from my original request. Now on the right-hand side of this panel, you see all these fields that are there for me to fill in. Now, with Maestro, the good features of Maestro is it allows you to configure each of these fields. Like you could set up your field labels, you could set up whether they are defaulted or read-only. You can see the industry sector and material types has been defaulted, units of measure has been defaulted, and the rest of the fields are defaulted here, and they are read-only, which means my users will not be able to change it. And as an administrator, you control it. There is no need for an ABAPer to come and do it for you. It's just a tick in the box, and then you control that description. You control that field attributes. Now, obviously, I haven't got all the fields in there. So again, this is the feature of Maestro. You don't need to bring in all the fields. You only bring in the fields that you think the user should be populating, and the rest of the fields can be hidden from the users. So I'm going to just fill in the very bare minimum information. So I'm going to just say, I want to show you something on the rules. So I'm going to say 12 pack, okay? And I do this. Now you can see that as soon as I've done that, it's thrown me an error saying the rule violated because the format mask for this is, someone should be putting in the description starting with the characters, and then it can be in any character. So this is again following a proper naming conventions for your material description. We all know that material descriptions are quite important, and if you don't follow it properly, it can be all over the place. So I'm going to just do a proper description in this case, and then so it's chocolate cookie pack of 20. Okay. Now that's all I'm going to fill in this view. I'm going to mark the status as complete. I'm happy with all the default values. I'm going to go ahead and then do the units of measure. Again, on the units of measure, you see this. You could have a good rule in there saying my user should always create these units of measure as alternate units of measure. I always want them to create box and cases. So you can predefine those. All the user needs to do is just fill in the quantities, then saying one of these is 5 of eaches, and one case is equal to 50 eaches of this. Okay, I'm done. I'm going to mark the status as complete. Similarly, the classification characteristics names can be defaulted, so user would need to fill in always those details in there. So I'm just going to put in some details in there, and then mark the status as complete. Similarly, I'll quickly go in there and then put some data. Okay, now I'm done. Now, if you want, you could default some of these values as well, but I'm just showing you this. So once I'm finished with all these, I'm going to just submit it. All goes green, which means I'm fine with this. I've gone through all the validation checks and everything. Now you see the little button here, which is called a run interface. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just push this data back into SAP. So like this tool itself is in SAP, but I'm just going to create the object in SAP. So this is saying, yeah, do you want to go ahead and do it? So yeah, now you can see that I've created this material master number now in SAP. Now what this has done is it's created the basic view one with units of measure and classification. Now obviously the rest of the views are not done yet, so the users can't use it. Now the reason why we say as best practice we should create the header data in the beginning so that you can reserve the material number. So if the process is going to take some time, if in between some user comes along and he tries to create a new material, at least the descriptions are there, so you can do some checks. So I'm just going to quickly go into backend SAP system and show you that material number that was created. So I'm just going to do MMO3. The session is disconnected. I'm just going to connect. You can see that this has created all the classification views. So that data has been created. My units of measure has been created, and this is the classification view on this. Yeah. So just a quick way of doing that. Now I've done my basic view. I've come back to this. Now you can see this. I've got step 30, 40, and 45 ready for me to create it because I've already done the basic view. So the rest of the views can be created now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly go and fill in some of the views. So I won't take long. Now you can see that I've come to the MRP views. So the MRP views are here, split by plant code. So if you have 5 plant codes, you'll see those. Again, the values has all been defaulted based on the business rules. You could write all those business rules. Now, another feature of Maestro is you could have your own drop downs or SAP search helps or F4 drop downs, whatever you call them. You can see this. I'm going to just show you on MRP controller. This is utilizing the standard SAP drop down. Those who are familiar with those drop downs. Those search helps, so it's using this, and it's plant specific as well. So you could reutilize some of those existing features that's already there in SAP. You don't have to rewrite them. And also, we all know this. Some of the time, these drop downs have got redundant data in there. The list is too big for my user to understand, interpret. Now what you can do then is you can write your own list of values or own drop down. So in this case, in the special procurement type, I've written my own drop down values. So you can see this, I've got only one value in there because I don't want my user to see the rest of the values that's not relevant to him. So you can do all those little things in Maestro apart from the complex business rules. So I'm happy with this. I've marked it as complete. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just flick through all the views, just mark them as complete because I know they are all correct because they've all gone through the business rules. So I'm not going to bother to change any of those and submit. Okay, so that task will be closed now. So I'm done with MRP views. I'm going to go and do the sales view now quickly. Now, as Dan was saying earlier, like if you have a very clever business rules written, you could pre-populate everything. So in this case, you can see this, I've pre-populated every field in my sales view. So if you know your business rules and you don't want the users to change anything, all the user would have to do in this case is come here, mark the status as complete and do nothing. That's it. Just go in all the sales view and then I'm going to just go and mark the status as complete. So you can see that I'm creating this for all the 3 plants without the user having to modify a single field in there. But this all depends upon if you have all business rules in place. Now I'm done with this. I'm going to go and do the finance view quickly and then show you another good feature in there. So again, in the finance view, it's split by plant codes. So I'm just going to fill in some values in there. I'm not going to mark this as status complete because I am not sure about the pricing. So what we're going to do now is I am going to save this. And then you see the status is still not complete. And then what I'll do is I'm going to request a review of this process. So you can see on the top there, you have various options there. You could request a review, you could escalate, you could reassign the task. You could forward the task to somebody else. So in this case, because I'm not sure about the pricing, I'm just going to say review this task. So I'm going to send it to a reviewer group. Now this reviewer group is going to come from the config. You decide which reviewer groups you have for finance, for SD, and so on. So I'm just going to say, please check the pricing. Okay. Now that's been submitted for review. Now if I refresh my screen, you can see that step 45 has got dependency on 44, which means I cannot complete this task unless my reviewer has reviewed this task and completed it for me. So in this case, Dan is just a reviewer, so I'm just going to request Dan to review this and approve it for me. So over to you, Dan. Can you just check it, please, for me?
Okay, can you see my screen, Faraz?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, drop back into my task list, and I have a review task in here. So let's have a look what he's asking. I was expecting some comments from you there, but yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna. Okay, so my review task will be complete. I've actively confirmed everything looks okay, price looks good.
Okay.
Send back to you, Faraz.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. So I'm back on here now. Hopefully you can see my screen. So I can now go on and complete my task because I have to still positively acknowledge what Dan has said. Yeah, he has said the price looks okay. So I'm fine now. All I'm going to do then is submit the task. So then that will close my task. So that finishes the entire process. Now it's waiting for a final approval. which I can do it. So you can see this, the final approval, you've got basic data 1, units of measure, so the reviewer can check all this data, and all I need to do then is just click on approve task, approve data, and then that's it. That's saved now. So at this stage, it should go and create all the views back into SAP. So I'm not going to go and run through the rest of the step processes now. I'll hand over to Dan to show you on some of the stuff on Fiori. Dan, over to you.
Okay, Faraz, can you hand back the
oh, sorry.
presentation? So yeah, I guess really for what we're showing you, obviously it's a material master, and we split it up based on MRP, different MRP views, different accounting views. But the principle is the same for most of the objects, whether that be internal orders, WBS, whatever it is. You establish a process, you establish a template, and build your business rules. So that's what we've kind of covered in there. Hopefully we didn't lose you too much on the demo. Just to talk through the business rules before I show you a little bit around the nice cool stuff. We've got a number of business rules. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I'm conscious that the time is ticking. So when Faraz talked about business rules, you can get incredibly complex with the rules, and Maestro will give you the capability. But what we typically say to clients is start small with your business rules and start building it and growing that kind of capability. So, some of the rules that we've got out the box: default values and conditions. So there's some examples there. So on a sales view, if the plant is X, then availability check will always be Y, and loading group can be Z. So you can do these ifs and thens conditions. Again, you don't need to be a coder. It's all kind of drop downs. Rule 2 is around field control. So again, what you're showing the user, but also what you're making mandatory, what you're hiding, what you're leaving as an input field. Rule 3, I'll come back to. Rule 4 is the obvious one, which is around naming conventions. So this is putting what Faraz calls a format mask in there. So, to get some conformity around descriptions, that's quite a nice rule. Rule 5 is obviously, that's for if you do want to go to beyond with your business rules, we give you the capability to write your own kind of customer exits in there. Now, Rule 3 is an interesting one, and in the next 6 weeks, hopefully, we'll be doing another demonstration on this. This is about really allowing Maestro to run a report to show your legacy data and then tell you where they fall foul of your business rules. And for the ones that do, being able to update them in mass. So we'll come back to Rule 3. It's an interesting topic on where we're going with the roadmap. We were hoping to show you something today, but we will give you another demo on that very soon. Yeah, I won't go through these rules, but that's kind of what we've touched on. Some of that you've seen today around naming conventions and default values and things like that. Very powerful, very easy to kind of configure. The challenge for you guys is establishing your business rules. Some people start off with 0 rules and allow the users to define what they see in the drop downs, which obviously you have control of. You're not just pushing a client's level drop-down list. You can define it at a plant level, so you have some control if you haven't got rules, but we say start off small with the rules and start growing. Mass processing, then I'm just looking at my time. What I'm going to show you here is mass process. So we all know the various tools that are out there. Maestro can do the same, and how it works is Maestro, you will follow the same process where we will have a request, it will be approved, and then there will be a task for downloading a template. And the beauty of it is when the template is downloaded, it's already pre-populated with business rules. Okay, so the user can validate that spreadsheet, maybe add in some more fields, and then when it's uploaded back into Maestro, again, it goes through a rule engine and is again validated before it's loaded. So it's different to other kind of tools out there. I'm going to quickly show you So this is the process that would typically follow a mass update. I'm going to quickly show you this little video because it's on a Windows machine and I'm on a Mac. So I'm just going to let this play through. So I'm just going to log into the GUI version of Maestro at this point. So I'm going to create a new request, and as we talked about templates earlier, so this time we're going to do a material. I'm going to put a description. Select my org division, reason code, date, and the important bit, which we spoke about earlier, is the template. So this brings together the rules and the process. So you can see the process below. Simple one, approve, download the template and upload it. Okay, so the first thing we do is approve. Again, we're showing you a native GUI. So the person can go in there, just simply approve that. Could have some text or comments. Here you can stipulate the number of records. It could be hundreds, it could be 40, but essentially this is to drop the template with a number of rows. So we're going to tell Maestro where to drop the template. You can see here that some template is being populated with certain business rules and default values. Obviously this would be different depending on the template that you use. Here we can edit. So, for example, we're editing the division and material group. Ideally, you would want Maestro to drop all the relevant fields and the default values. So, we're just going to save this. We're purposefully going to leave material description out for the time being because we know it's mandatory. So, we hope that Maestro will be able to pick this up. So now, we're going to log back in. And we're going to try and upload that template. We select where the file's been stored. Maestro will validate the data within the template. So you can see there the error message. It's a mandatory field for description. So it's a case of going back into the spreadsheet. So the point is Maestro is now validating. It's a simple test, but you get the principles, right? So if anything contradicts the rules or mandatory fields, then Maestro is going to have a problem with that, and mass processing will not be allowed. So we'll just then enter our description, save it, close the file, and reload. Back in. Go to select my file. And just like any kind of mass Excel spreadsheet, we can see the results has been loaded in, it's been validated, and we can upload the data via a BDC session. So hopefully, just to prove it, we'll take the object, which is the material number in this case, and we'll just go MMO3. Just check that material number in there. You can see here the basic views and the data that we've populated there with the material group and division are populated. Okay, so that's a quick example, but the principles are exactly the same. Difference being that you're getting some validation done with Maestro and it's dropping business rules. So just quickly to talk about Office integration, you've seen the mass upload, but we can also generate requests based on Excel templates, for example. So people can send an Excel template into a particular email address, and that can trigger off a series of tasks and processes. Same with integrating with other systems. You know, we can trigger requests from other systems. Email, again, within the configuration of Maestro, you have the option of just using SAP Business Inbox, or you can use both. You can get Outlook emails. And also, because of the lead times and the fact that we're tracking processes, we can actually now start creating calendar events, in your office calendar, like Outlook, for example, with certain tasks and when they need to be done. So that's quite a nice feature as well. We didn't really show you much, but what you've seen today, well, you've seen a little bit of this, which is your SAP GUI, and we just showed you the mass process. What we showed you in the main was SAP screen personas. It's just a nice way to kind of brand your solution, but also simplify it quite nicely. On the latest support packs for SAP screen personas, you can now do some quite nice stuff around mobile. So normally, tablet and mobiles relevant for SAP Fiori because it's a responsive UI, but you can do some really nice stuff with SAP screen personas now. Obviously, you have to design the screens for that certain environment, and it's not responsive, but it still works. It's still nice. And obviously, SAP Fiori, which I'll just show you quickly on here. Let's just refresh. So this is my this is responsive. As you can see, my tiles are moving around. You've got exactly the same functionality, albeit it's just displayed in a simple kind of format. So they're the different UIs. We won't touch on this because I think we're running out of time. I want to leave some time for questions, but the configuration is pretty straightforward. You, as I say, don't have to be a technical guy to kind of run with this. So what we've kind of showed you really just to highlight some of the things. So no additional hardware. This thing sits in your core ERP system. So it's task driven, yeah. So it's not just about data objects and data departments. It's about process as well as data. We have templates that get delivered as part of the solution, and importantly, it's not licensed at a user level, it's licensed at an object level. Hopefully you get to understand now what we're talking about around simple. This is really kind of simple stuff around governance, making sure people have checked entries so that we're not duplicating data. We've got some rules in there with some, making sure we've got good naming conventions and good default values so people aren't entering wrong data all the time. And obviously the important one is you can see where your data process is just from the reporting side of Maestro. You can see where that material master is, who's it with, who's done what. It's got full audit login as well. The approach that we give, so obviously what we've shown you today is the core engine and a little bit of screen personas, which means you can brand it and make things really, really, really simple. But other things where we do a typical deployment, you might want to link it to a content server to start storing PDF documents that are associated with objects. And then lastly, obviously the mobility, the Fiori side, which we've kind of touched on as well today.
Do we want to start asking some questions, Dan? I don't want to run out of time.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to skip through to that now.
Yeah. If anybody has got any questions, can you just pop them on the chat and I can ask them towards the end as well for any attendees that need to ask a question.
Cool. Okay. And then just finally, because it's important in terms of your roadmap. So Maestro, will remove legacy systems. They're some examples, for example. Sits within your core ECC, okay, and you start cleansing your data. You've got best practice processes in there along with the standard workflow. It'll cover any objects. They're just examples. And what you start to then get is a good base layer for governance and audit. Now, what our guys are working on, we're already live on S/4HANA versions, but we're working in our roadmap around the journey for S/4HANA and how Maestro can help you. So you'll see some news coming out on that quite quickly. As I said, we're already on S/4HANA platform with one customer. What we're working on is a way to help clients move easily from ECC 6 to S4. The roadmap, just quickly about this, we spoke about legacy data. We'll share something with you in the next few weeks around some of the analytics and how you can clean up legacy data. But there's a whole bunch of stuff going on which I'll kind of won't go through. The other interesting area are things like archiving. So we're going to link some of this stuff to some of the standard SAP archiving solutions, because then it becomes a full end-to-end data lifecycle solution. that's our details, guys. I'm sure you'll get. God, sorry about the picture, by the way. But there's our contact details, and I'll open the floor up now, Amy, to yourself for questions.
Great, thank you both very much. The first question we have is, can we trigger a request from external source, such as CRM, SRM, etc.?
Feroz, I'll let you answer it, but I think I already touched on that. I mean, we have got that integration layer, but Feroz, if you want to talk technical.
Yeah, the out-of-box solution is Excel integration, so people could trigger it from Excel, but we also provide, because we provide customer exit, so we let the customer decide which system they want to interface, and as long as we can get the file in certain format, yeah, we can upload it, because the technology isn't very complicated. It still is an ABAP or UI5, it sits in core ERP, so we have that flexibility to link it as long as we get the data in the right format. Yeah.
Good stuff, thank you. The next question, will Maextro handle customer enhancement to start material/customer master screens in SAP?
Yeah, Feroz.
Yeah, again, on this one, because you as a customer define which views and which fields you want in the process, so that way it gives you flexibility to add any fields. So if the customer has enhanced any material master object, so for instance, they have added a Z field in the basic view or any view, the same can be replicated here, and the BAPI interface, which should pick it up, or the BDC interface into SAP. That's pretty standard stuff. So yeah, we will support any customer enhancement that has been done. Maestro can handle that.
Yeah, and we've also catered for a number of kind of Z views and Z fields, haven't we, Feroz, which is kind of what you're alluding to there. So we've built the capability within the solution for that, yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Do we have any further questions from any of your attendees, or if you would prefer, you can send them to ourselves or Dan and for us directly? Then I'm sure they'd be happy to answer them that way as well.
Yeah, of course.
Great. Dan, is there anything else you'd like to add for us?
Not really. I mean, people are probably aware. I noticed that a couple of people have already attended the first one when we launched in July. As you could see from the roadmap, we've got an awful lot of work ahead. But the good news is, you know, it's running fine on ECC6. It's running on S4. We've got quite an aggressive roadmap, if I'm totally honest with you. So our guys are absolutely flat out right now, trying to create innovation within the product where it kind of makes sense for businesses. So, you know, it's quite an exciting time. The product's still new. Our challenge is marketing it in the right way. You know, this is the second real kind of marketing opportunity that we've had with the product. As soon as people see it, they get it, they can understand the value it will bring in terms of governance and audit, and also just the simple workflow that it brings to businesses without overcomplicating their landscape. So we think it's good. We hope you guys think there's, you know, certainly some value to it, and we'd love any feedback post the conference. That would be post the WebEx. That would be great.
We do have one more question from an attendee. That's, do you mechanism to capture product web attributes, copywriting information, or do you have capability to integrate with any PIM like SAP Hybris?
Sorry, could you repeat the first part of that question, Amy?
Yep. Do you mechanism to capture product web attributes?
Okay, so as Feroz said again, I mean, we're building all sorts of integration methods, but also we can capture, and we probably didn't speak about this, but for one customer in particular, we're capturing a lot of non-SAP data within Maestro. They have a quite a complex artwork process for their finished goods. We're capturing all that within Maestro, and it doesn't really live in SAP. So to answer the question simply, in terms of integration, yes, but in terms of holding other data, yeah, absolutely, we can hold that within Maestro.
Great, thank you. I think that's everything for questions. Is there anything else from anybody before we end the webinar? I will send a copy of the recording and the questions out to all the attendees after, so you can catch up that way as well.
Great, thank you, Amy.
Brilliant. Thanks everybody for joining the webinar today, and thank you, Dan and Faraz, for hosting it.
You're welcome. Thank you, and everybody have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks a
everyone.
lot. Bye.
Bye. Bye.